I was actually considering leaving my job. I went to a conference and it was basically going to be my last conference. I was going to quit work and stay at home until kids were a bit older. And I met my coach there and it changed my life. He said, don't do it. I did 3-day working for 5 years. So obviously that impacted my career, but look where I am today.
Are women learning how to support each other?
My advice is to get a combination of both, because you'll be surprised if you're not hearing different perspectives. And people tend to do that sometimes. If you see someone who reminds you of where you used to be or is, struggling where they've gone, reach out and ask, are you okay?
I find it specifically rewarding when I get support from women. Hi, Tina. Welcome to Forbes Studio and welcome to Dubai. And thank you very much for, passing by this morning to talk all things generative AI, women networking and what's not. How are you?
Absolute pleasure to be here in Dubai. And I guess generative AI has been a massive part of my role. So very relevant at the moment and how it's been developing.
It's interesting. So I wanted actually to dig a little bit deeper into the role that you're doing, because your role sounds like a generative AI director. For me, being a super curious person, I just want to understand. So considering generative AI is a very recent term, if you think about bigger technologies, right? So, and having a role dedicated to that actually makes me wonder. Is this something that organizations will start adopting? Is this something that has been evolving over the time and it grew from a different role? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess I've been working about 8 months in generative AI now, and I've seen the changes that have taken place. It's a very real technology that's being adopted by a lot of businesses. I can give you some examples. So within financial services, the ability to do chatbot technology, conversational AI, and using generative AI to really create that first line of interface between a customer and a user. The other piece that I've really seen is disrupting retail around marketing and sales, where image technology is being used. We've seen an influx of role models as well as models that are out there that are created by generative AI and actually influencing industries. And then day-to-day tasks have really changed. So I use generative AI on a day-to-day basis, using Copilot and being able to do my tasks, being able to summarize meetings that I look at. It's made me a lot more efficient, but it's been really difficult to see how the rest of the team is adopting it. And I think that we're going to see that ongoing. It is a new technology, so when I'm working with people, there's two schools of thought, and one of my key jobs is to bring together the people who are for the technology and those who are a bit more against it, because some of the concerns around data privacy, about cybersecurity, and bringing that to life.
So in terms of the role itself, how do you think the organizations will evolve with, in an attempt to adopt AI at some point of time? Because I know one of the biggest struggles for businesses of different sizes is to actually where to start with. So does your role help organizations and businesses understand how to tackle AI, artificial intelligence, what kind of solutions and tools to adopt first? Or so can you talk a little bit about, what is the background behind, having a role like that within an organization?
I think I've seen three key approaches. So one of the first ones is to set up a center of excellence. It's, how are we going to bring together proof of concepts? What are the use cases that we're bringing to life within the organization? Roles within that are, the technical element, prompt engineering, someone who's actually around the governance to get the sign off of the budgets, and then someone who's really deeply technical around generative AI to be able to bring it all to life. Having a center of excellence means that you can triage the use cases that come about, prioritize them, and then decide which ones are going to have the biggest impact. Because the worst thing is having a proof of concept that doesn't go into production. The second way that I've seen organizations really bring it to life is around using technologies that they have available. So the Google, the Microsoft, the AWS, Salesforce, or the CRM systems, Oracle, and SAP, and taking those use cases already available, and you're seeing a lot of that within the agentic work. And then finally having a vision and a leader that's able to articulate how generative AI can really bring it to life. And that's something that I've been helping a lot of organizations with.
And what do organizations adopt first? So what are those, first areas of business that are being transformed by AI, meaning organizations are prepared to invest into the solutions from that perspective?
So a lot of work is being done with GitHub Copilot, so the software development cycle and being able to use some of the tools within that. Requirements, testing, it's seen so many efficiencies, up to 60% efficiencies. So that's been the first one to go, and it's been, technology enabled, wide range of tools available, giving the impact that really an organization wants to see. And then the second one is around the chatbot technology. So I'm working with a strategic organization called Boost AI. They're able to bring to life some of the technology quite quickly, being able to look at it from a governance lens as well. So yeah, conversational software development has been the two areas. And then finally, the day-to-day tasks, so meeting, recordings, being able to translation from language to text to language is been a really good use case that we've been seeing.
What are the biggest challenges organizations face when they start adopting sort of AI models, AI tools?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head with adoption. That is number one problem that we're seeing. So the technology is new. People are scared of it. People do really like to work in the way that they've always worked. So having to change that is number one that I've seen. The other is actually around making sure that the use case that you've chosen is going to have a good business impact. So we've seen a lot of people thinking that something's a great idea, but then it doesn't scale, it doesn't have the same impact that it's supposed to have. So that's probably the two bits that I've seen that are a bit of a challenge. And then regulatory changes. So as generative AI and agentic workforces have come about, regulations have started to change. I've actually been into a workshop and given one point of view on a Monday, and by Wednesday there was a different law that came out, so I've had to change it. So real-time changes of legislation, being able to impact them. And we've got the EU Act coming out in EMEA, so having to deal with the changes of that.
And how would you recommend to sort of balance in terms of driving the innovation in that space and at the same time, trying to change the mindset? And the three challenges that you've just mentioned: adoption, obviously looking for the right use case to start with, and the regulations. How would you recommend for businesses of different sizes to approach these challenges?
So number one is having responsible AI, or the kind of concept of data privacy, cybersecurity at the outset. If you don't start with that, it means that you can go down a path and then that particular use case doesn't go into production or into live, or people are just not going to use it. The second one, I think, is looking at the data. Have you got the data in the organization to really bring it to life? And if not, how do you get there? And having a path from the use case to the data to how the people are going to use it. And let's not forget training. Having training, you can use Gen AI to do some of the training, and it's something that I've looked at. workshops to be able to enable that, creating content, using generative AI is super important to have that in place. And then the success metrics. The best thing to do is have an organization align at the exec level of what success looks like, because you can put those same people in the room and a different perception of success would lead to different outcomes. So having that alignment at the start with this fast moving technology is super important.
And how long is the cycle, let's say, to launch the first use case with the AI? Let's say with the medium to large organizations, and probably it's going to be different with the small businesses.
Look, I'll be honest, it really does depend on the clients that I've worked with and the organization itself. But I have seen, simple use cases be brought to life in a matter of weeks. Mm-hmm. Larger ones can take, a couple of months to get right and put into place. But data is the kind of governing factor of that. You can go live with agents. You can go live with a small use case pretty quickly. And that is the key to really bringing it to life. People can see how it works, how it can improve the way that they do their job. And they can see the results quickly. And then you can scale.
And an interesting part is, so for example, if I were a business that wants to adopt AI tomorrow, what do I need to do? Like, do I need to hire a right person, an agency? Do I need to evaluate what kind of data I have, whether the regulations are in place? So what are my actions as a business or as somebody who is tasked within the organization to start adopting AI? So what do I do in your opinion?
What I would have on my checklist is, number one, understand the ecosystem partners that I'm working with. Who are they? Where is that technology residing? The second is to have the guidance that you need. So I work at an IT firm that helps to support, and that definitely is somewhere where you've got the expertise to bring in that talent, where you've got the experience that done it before. And then looking at your local laws and legislation and having someone in your organization that's very close to data privacy and the laws that are coming is super important. Having the exec sponsorship, so one person who is really determined to make this work, is a key.
Almost in any sort of disruptive project within an organization, having the right stakeholders in place is probably half of the success.
Yeah, and a flexible stakeholder as well, because as things change, you have to be able to move with the market. And, very recently we had generative AI, agentic workforce now, and we're seeing so much of that change day by day. So having someone flexible and outcome driven, super important.
I was going to ask, actually, what kind of sort of new skills organizations require to be able to, to start adopting AI models?
I think being able to look at data engineering, prompt engineering, those are super top skills that you would need. Being able to test the LLM models. Is the output correct with what you're expecting? Which model are you going to use? So someone who is very close to how the different models work and bringing them to life. And then I guess having someone who is able to look at your enterprise architecture and identify where you'd see the most value. So a combination of tech and then combination of business together will get you the right result.
That's interesting. And those are the hard skills. And if we talk about the soft skills.
Communication. Number one is communication. Can you bring very quickly multiple people who have a different view? I'll be honest, I've never seen such an opposing view. Every time I go into a room, I have an expectation about what people are going to think about generative AI, and it's completely different to what I was expecting. So being able to bring different strong personalities that may be opposing and also pro the technology to a place where they're both comfortable to move forward is really important.
Do they have to be comfortable to move forward? Or it's like uncomfort is like a general sort of, it's a general state from which you start adopting things?
So comfortable enough to take step one. So that is the key. Yes, discomfort has been, within a room that I've been in, but I think people see the value in the technology and they see that it's something that's running without them getting on the train. So if not now, then when?
Do organizations actually address the skills and functions by hiring new talents, or more of a training the existing talent? So from your experience, from what you see, the tendency, is it more of a training the talent that exists, or hiring the new one?
I think it's advice externally, number one. So, how do we do this quickly, fast? Who's got that experience? And then a combination of the two. So having a look at either a strong leader that exists that wants to really drive this, or hiring externally. And then really drilling down into who needs to be trained by what time and when, and by which style. Not everyone learns in the same way, so you have to be really adaptive with that. Is it an online program? Is it a workshop? Is it self-learning, self-paced? External advice is probably the one that I've seen being taken first.
How did you yourself personally get into that career?
Oh, wow. What a question. So I actually started working quite closely with one of the hyperscalers, so Microsoft. And as part of that role, when they acquired OpenAI, decided to take on the role to look after this technology. So that's kind of where it started.
How do you think, so what's your particular impact to the role that you're doing now? So it's meaning, how do you transform this role? How you probably grow this, or how do you develop that role that was initially given to you?
Yeah, so for me, it's by listening, number one. Yeah. And then secondly, researching and learning. New papers are released every minute of the day. There are new technologies being out there. Conferences are super useful in this instance as well. And I guess network. Really find out the people that are driving this, the leaders and visionaries, and just bringing to life the content that they have, understanding it, and looking at where the technology is going as well with trends and social media is super important, because things are changing super quickly. And I do use LinkedIn quite a lot to understand what the big voices are.
I totally agree with you that we're living in the era where tech and other sort of areas like marketing, media, compared to what used to be developing with a very, very high speed, and to be able to capture that trend that is disrupting your particular niche is very, very important. So considering that, I want to ask you, with every new technology that is changing this and that industry, how important is entrepreneurship? So, is it more about the larger organizations or smaller businesses that are helping to drive that change?
So I think entrepreneurship at this particular moment in time, for me personally, as well as like the industry, is so important. So I'm part of something called the One Club in the UK, and it enables me to work with other entrepreneurs, understand the ideas that they're looking at, and being able to really challenge the way that things are done before. And what that brings to me is a really key insight into innovation, technologies that are being developed. Because the last thing I want to do is to go to speak to someone and not be at the forefront of where tech is going. And the other thing is to work with innovation labs as well. So I work quite closely with the FinTech Innovation Lab, getting a viewpoint of what's happening in financial services. I work quite closely with strategic partners and upcoming tech vendors, and bringing all of that together is super important. For me, One Club has given me a bit of an insight into how entrepreneurs work, how quickly they are able to get funding, and all the challenges that they're facing, so that when I'm working at larger organizations, I can be like, that's a good idea, that's probably not going to work. this may work if it can need this tweaks. And I used to be at a fintech. So having that perspective of being at a smaller firm and now being at a larger firm has really helped me to drive that entrepreneurship feeling within the roles that I'm doing, the clients that I'm doing, and then also feeding back and kind of giving perspectives to smaller companies to say, actually, maybe if you have this message, it's going to have a bigger impact.
So bringing in that spirit, even the disruptive content that you might actually get not through the conferences, but more of a networking sort of groups, bringing that on the table of a larger organization. Do you see any challenge in there? How is that message accepted? And how do you address and how do you find the balance in terms of really bring it in an impactful way?
Yeah, so I think networks are super important. So for me, the entrepreneurship network really brings to life new ideas. So that's the bit that's, important.
But my question here would be, okay, so are the other dialogues within the entrepreneurship networks, are those dialogues that they are ready to be transformed into sort of a business or innovative, or do they need to do anything to sort of improve on their message or keep on working on the way they deliver that message, or they innovate, or is there anything that can be done to help both of these worlds talk together?
Yeah, 100%. The number one is stop talking about the software. Talk about the business value that's going to release or impact or bring to life within an organization. The other is like that same piece of technology or the same entrepreneurship idea doesn't apply to different clients in the same way. So be specific with your messages that you're taking, do the research on the client that you're looking at, and don't talk about tech, talk about the business value, how you're going to transform, the impact it's going to have. All successful businesses, the number one is the feeling that the person walks away with of the opportunity that's going to be in the future. So for me, that's the landing message.
So what would be your recommendation to sort of, let's say, fintechs or any other, products out there that are trying to innovate the current era we're living in, current tech era, right? What would be your piece of advice? How to get noticed by the larger organizations? How to innovate with, with an impact?
Get yourself a sponsor within that organization. If you have someone that truly believes in your technology and the message and the business value that's coming about, that person will be vocal and be able to really bring to life and navigate what are large organizations. Who do you need to speak to? What is the message? Give you some feedback, give you some coaching. Coaching is so important in making a successful presentation. If you've got 10 minutes, those 10 minutes have to land in the right way. And getting the right people in the room. If you've got 5 people within an organization that have no impact in the tech that or the idea or the entrepreneurship vision that you're selling, you're going to walk away empty-handed. So it's super important to get yourself a sponsor within that organization that you're targeting. And then what you can do yourself is really look at the messages and feedback that you get. Don't walk away from a meeting that may have gone well or didn't go well without that feedback about why there was that outcome. Those learnings are crucial for the next steps. You could be going in, making the same mistakes again and again. Without that feedback loop, you won't be able to change the way you're looking at things.
And the one club you are sort of part of is helping exactly with that.
It's helping me probably in 2 ways. One is from being understood.
Yeah.
My career, where I want to go, where I want to learn. And the second is actual, tangible, great ideas. I can walk into a room and be like, wow, that's a good idea. I need to take that to my clients.
So recently you were featured in the Forbes as part of a network that supports women, like one of the 13 women that were featured actually on the Forbes. So can you talk a bit about that? Because I understand from our a little discussion before we started recording that you are doing some work in terms of supporting women in tech. So can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it was a brilliant honor to be featured in Forbes. It was one of my life's kind of ambitions. And Women in Tech, it's brought about our connection.
Yeah.
So, that's shows the power of networks. But for me personally, it's a bit of a reflection on where I used to be and where I am now with my role. So I didn't know about tech when I got into technology itself. And I think it's super important to share some of the journey that I've been on, be a role model to others. So Women in Alliances is a network that I'm a co-founder of. We started as 10 people during lockdown, and now we're a global community of 1,000 people, including here in Dubai. We work closely just not with Women in Tech, but with other partners as well. So Black Sheep Coffee is one of the places that we hold our networking events. We work with Desidaru, which is a company that Alfonso-based vodka, and we try to bring some kind of different partnerships together. And Women in Alliances, they basically have 3 messages and missions. One is around someone like myself or part of the community building your own legacy. So what does that mean? Building your brand on LinkedIn, really understanding where you want to go in your career and stand for, and that personal kind of fulfillment perspective. The second is giving back. So, how do you upskill other people that are at early stage in their career, bring some, important lessons in life, helping them to build their network as well. We've seen the outcome of having to know the right people in the room and what that can do to your career. And then I guess finally, life's tough nowadays. Technology is changing. We have pressures about having, family. We've got things going on in our mind. Mental well-being is super important. We face health challenges. So that wider fulfillment and support network to give you some of those things you want to talk about. Maybe you don't want to talk about work, but you can talk about Women in Alliances.
And what would be since you touched upon the topic of the career for women, so what would be your sort of point of view in terms of how to get on top of your career, and what do we call career eventually? And are you referring specifically to tech, or is it a career for women in general? So what is your point of view on that?
So I think there are a lot of challenges that you face as being women in technology. Sometimes I've been in rooms, I'm the only female there. Things are a lot better now, but you still have to govern a different way of working, being able to understand different cultures as well, that the sort of uniqueness of working in a particular client. But I'll be honest, the one thing that has really changed and accelerated my career is understanding myself. So when I started, I used to walk into a room and say, I want to be like this person, I want to be like that person, or that guy, or this woman. And I was very late in life to actually really propel what I understood as what would be my career. And it takes a little while, and the growth that's involved in that. So I highly recommend meditation. That's one piece. Really looking at yourself inwardly to say, what are my skills individually? What am I really good at? Get that feedback from other people to say, what do you want to be known for? And then coaches are super important. Meeting someone. So a lot of people are like, get a coach, get a mentor. What's the difference between those? My advice is, number one, get someone who you think you're like and want to be like, so they can support you and understand you.
A role model?
Yeah, role model. The other is get someone who you can't stand and can't get along with, because in that interaction, you will learn more about yourself and why you're getting this feedback and how you can improve. And one of my coaches, that's how we met. We just clashed. And now it's one of my go to, this situation happened. What should I do? I'm getting this, I don't understand. And being able to resolve that. And the third person is someone who is in your organization, who really is your backer and trying to get you to that next step, because they understand the process. They've done it. They can be your sponsor, so that when you walk out of a room, there is that person telling 5 people what an amazing job you've done. And then I guess touching on that network piece, I've found that when you meet the right person at the right time, that can change your trajectory completely. So get to that meeting, turn up to those networking conferences, it is uncomfortable sometimes going into a big circle and introducing yourself, but just do it. And if you feel uncomfortable, take a friend. That is my advice. Take a friend. So you have someone when it's quiet, they can go for a coffee together, but find the right people to really support you with what you want to achieve and what you believe in. And look, it's not a one-way street. If you have something to offer, that is the best way. So there's a mutual connection, a mutual interaction, because you can't just take. You have to give. And that's why I do Women Alliances, go back to schools, talk about my career there, where I'm working, help university students to progress their career. And I've got to a stage now where super important for me to feel fulfillment, because someone did this for me, so I need to do this for other people.
Do you think women networks are more supportive for women, or, I mean, rather, let's say, male sponsorship would be a more efficient one in terms of building a technical career, specifically in a larger organization?
Look, I'll be honest, sometimes it's nice to have a group of females together, being able to share openly, but to really make an impact is you need the ambassadors in the room too that are understanding the challenges and then being able to do something about it when they're confronted with these situations. And that's why actually one of the next events that I'm working on is Women Alliances and One Club Together, bringing together the entrepreneurship, bringing together women in tech and seeing how you can work together. So my answer is you can never achieve anything if you have one siloed group. Whether that's a generative AI project, whether that's a COE, whether that's like an impact to women in tech, you need to be bringing all of that together. And having passionate people tell stories. Storytelling is super important. You can give facts and figures, you can read a particular article, but when you meet that person and you listen to them and you think, wow, that kind of changes lives.
But my question was a little bit to understand whether women are supportive to women, because women started sort of supporting each other probably relatively shorter period of time than if we imagine sort of more of a male environment, right? So my question is, are women learning how to support each other, and is a female sort of group of supporters more supportive in terms of the career, more efficient in terms of building your career in tech specifically, right? Or would you sort of prefer to have a mentor from more of a male group, let's say?
I would choose both, because there are things that I want to discuss that are challenges that are faced by people similar to myself. So I really need to be open and honest about how to overcome those, be in a comfortable environment where I can speak honestly about what I'm feeling, how I'm thinking, what I'm doing, and hear back like other suggestions. But whether it's a male or a female who is your coach or your mentor, I don't think it's that relevant. I think it's the perspective that they bring to challenge you, to change the way you look at what you're doing, and to give you that feedback honestly about how to take that next step. And my advice is to get a combination of both, because you'll be surprised if you're not hearing different perspectives. And people tend to do that sometimes. And I'll be honest, my career actually did go leaps and bounds when it wasn't just male and female, it was a variety of thoughts. Is this person an entrepreneur? Is this person in my organization? Is this person outside my organization and giving me feedback in a completely different way? So yeah, I think having a combination of both is super important.
And so if you look back at your career journey, so were there some crucial milestones or mentors or coaches that help you to go through, some really critical moments where it could turn into a different direction? And what was that? Yes, and who was that probably?
I'm so glad you asked me this question. I was actually considering leaving my job. I have 2 children and they're the love of my life. And it was very difficult at that stage. So, my advice reflecting back is you have to do what's right for you at the time, but do what's right for you at that time. Things will be fine in the future. For me, I went to a conference and it was basically going to be my last conference. I was going to quit work and stay at home until kids were a bit older. And I met my coach there and it changed my life. He said, don't do it. Don't leave your job. Keep going for 6 months and get yourself something to differentiate yourself. And that's when I was on the Tech 100 in the UK. So the top 100 women within the UK who are working in technology careers. And that keep going advice, that was right for me. And that particular article went viral on LinkedIn. I had the award. The coach that I got really taught me to face my challenges in a certain way and to identify them. I think I was just fleeting through, trying to do my job and just juggling loads of different things, and everything was about to fall. But when you start to really focus on what you want to prioritize, when you look inwardly, like, what do I really want to stand for? That can give you a lot of answers. And it's not a question people ask at yourself every day. Like, what do I want to be known for? If I'm not here tomorrow, what do my children want to remember their mum as? What does my family want to recognize me as? And those are big questions for someone to ask themselves. And when you find those answers, even if it takes a bit of time or you take steps towards that, it can really change your life. And going back to the coaching piece, someone who really cares about your career, but has also seen an impact to others. He individually understood what it was like because his wife had been through had 3 children, and I was just, having my first. So empathy with a coach, someone who really was backing you because they understand your situation, but someone who's very relevant to your tech role and being able to understand the landscape they're in, super important.
What made you listen to that person? Was it someone you knew, or was it someone that you met at the conference?
It was someone I met at the conference but worked at the same organization as myself. So I'll be honest, I think there's an element of like manifestation in some of these things. It's like your soul is always searching for something, and when you meet these people in your life, just take a hold of them. You'll get that feeling. And sometimes if you go to someone, you meet someone, you have a conversation, it's really impactful. Don't walk away from that situation without getting their details, because I do believe in manifesting things yourself, but also circumstances. So you cross the right person's path. We met here today. What a wonderful occasion. And let's see where this goes. But when you have those people walk into your life, hold them precious, you'll know the feeling.
The reason I asked about what made you listen, because when it comes to women careers specifically, how often do we step away from the active career because we think that's the right thing to do? That's probably an easier or definitely the right thing to do when you step away from the career and you go to take care of your kids, right? And there's nothing wrong about that. But then you probably step away from something that you could be as yourself, right? As a person, regardless of your kids or your partner, let's say, right? So, and the reason I asked what made you listen is how many women just pass that stage and take a totally different direction in their life and probably not fulfilling the potential that they have. And I think my comment here and probably a question to you, so how do women can support each other from that perspective, saying that, well, don't leave your career.
Yeah, 100%.
Still have an energy. Yeah, you still have an energy, right?
Yeah, and look, I think there isn't a right answer. I have friends who took 2 weeks out, 3 months out, took 4 years out. Whatever's right for you, that is the number one thing. People, if you take 2 weeks out, someone's telling you should have taken a year out. So if you're taking a year out, someone's telling you you've got to, you should have gone back to work earlier and it's impacting your career. But number one, what's right for you, do that. But the other bit is look and ask if you see someone in your situation. If I ever pass someone who just said, I've returned from maternity, ask them, do you need help? Like, what is it that you need career support on? And it's not just on the day they come back. If they're leaving, you've given them a lovely present and they're going off on leave, make sure you keep in touch. That's simple things that you can do. And I guess the bit that's super important is it's not only just the cultural norms. Like, I've faced quite a lot of different cultural norms based on staying at home. It's also the financial impact. I was literally paying to go to work. Mm-hmm. So being able to be in a situation where you're trying to understand an individual's challenges and asking them openly and honestly, what can I do to help, is super important.
But how often do you face, or probably have you faced, sort of a career competition, not coming from men. So tech roles is probably one thing, right? And you need to get to a certain extent of knowledge to be able to compete in the same upgrade or update or education, etc. So when it comes to, let's say, building a career path within an organization, between organizations, how likely do you think women to compete with each other?
I think competition is a good thing, right? So I'm going to come across people where we're going to be looking at roles, going head to head with each other, and let the best woman or men win, because, it's on your merit. It should be on your merit. It's on the influence that you have through the process that you're taking place. And look, if I'm head to head with someone, congratulations to them. And that's my career. But that's not the way everyone experiences it. You may come across characters that are difficult. In those situations, you have to remain calm and cool and not lose your temper, because it's very easy to do so. And try to understand, what is that person trying to get at? Why are they behaving in that way? And in some occasions, if it's not the right thing for you to go against someone who is making you really unhappy, it's best to wait for your time and do it the right way. Always look after your well-being and your happiness, because you can come across toxic environments. But if you want something, don't ever let someone take that away from you.
It's hard to balance, right? Between
100%.
Between the option to actually step away and do something else, like for example, take care of kids, or to understand that this is something that you're really up to and sort of fight for it.
Yeah.
Or step away because it's toxic and it's not the right time. Yeah, see, there are so many, and I mean, it's probably good that we're talking as two females, right? And we understand we're both mothers, right? And we're both probably quite active in terms of, what we want to build out of our career journey. And I also went through that moment when I had to choose.
Had to choose, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why probably it relates to me so much, your story, and the support from women. But I think it's also, the curiosity and the energy that helped me to actually push myself out of just being a stay-at-home person. I think that also relates to your personality, but not everybody is, capable to push yourself out there.
And look, I can be honest, I did 3-day working for 5 years. So obviously that impacted my career. But look where I am today, Sometimes you have to take the foot off the accelerator and do what you think is best. I was there every day for my kids, to every nursery performance, every home-cooked meal. But then at the same time, I'm on Forbes this year. I've Women in Tech. You can, if you put your foot back on the accelerator, meet the right people. And I didn't do this alone. There's a whole network of supporting people. My husband, without him, friends that I have, my parents, my in-laws, my sister-in-law, without those people helping with the kids and saying, go on, keep going, we believe in you, is super important.
I think that's the conclusion. So it's very important the people who are surrounding you, and especially I find it specifically rewarding when I get support from women.
Yes, 100%.
While it's just a special feeling when you feel that a colleague from your industry who is actually as active and as bright, and she's doing a great job.
Yeah.
And the career from your, a colleague from your industry would say something nice, either publicly or in a personal message. And I think that is specifically rewarding.
And I guess that's my one ask. It's, if you see someone who reminds you of where you used to be, or is, struggling where they've gone, reach out and ask, are you okay? And don't wait for the answer where they say, yeah, I'm fine. Really ask that strong question to say, look, where can I help? What do you need? What can I do to support you? If you ask, what can I do to support you? That is super important.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you very much for this conversation. I think it's been an interesting turn into sort of women career and building career as a woman in tech, but also relates to a lot of other women who are seeking probably for a piece of advice or a motivation or an inspiration in terms of how to step away from, whatever their current situation is. And thank you very much for sharing your insights and passing back Podster this morning.
Absolute pleasure. Great to meet you. Thank you.
Great meeting you too.